Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In going through the Twitters lately, I've noticed a number of XRP community members posing the same question over and over again. And it simply is with PayID, which Ripple is pushing for now, and they're basically leading a coalition of 40 businesses pushing for PayID, which really means interoperability of funds, regardless of which platform you're on. What's the purpose of XRP? Doesn't PayID make XRP completely useless if this is a real solution for interoperability? And the short answer is no. But I keep seeing this question posed over and over again on Twitter, so I thought I'd go ahead and address it and explain why that's absolutely not the case. And hopefully squash this once or for all. I'm sure it's still going to pop up. It's not like everybody on the planet's going to magically see this video. But I'm going to cover that. I've also got some comments from Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse on this. I've also got some comments from Ripple CTO, co-creator of the XRP ledger, David Schwartz, talking about PayID, which I just came across for the first time, so I want to share some of that with you. So that'll get us rolling here. But before we go any further, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you would please ever so delicately tap that like button. But hey, I'm looking at you, Mr. Muscles. Don't get all smashy with it. You break it, you buy it. That's the tough love policy on the Moon Lambo channel. And also, I recommend that you treat yourself, girl, by subscribing to the Moon Lambo channel. You can have a day of pamper every single day with the Moon Lambo channel. So let's dive in here first. And before I get to the nuts and bolts of why this is not something to worry about as far as XRP being made completely obsolete by PayID, I think we need to first understand a little bit more about it. I decided I'm going to go ahead and start with a little bit of coverage from this piece. I made a video yesterday where I was talking in general about Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse's comments about a couple things, being on CNBC's disruptor list, as well as PayID. And I wanted to share with you an actual quote, since there's a brand new article about it today. I wanted to share with you verbatim what he said in this CNBC interview, which just aired the other day. And so he was being interviewed, and here's what he said as far as the process of sending capital, making it easier, and basically as easy as sending an email. Excuse me. So here's a quote from Brad Garlinghouse. "We've all had the experience when you ask a friend and say, 'Hey, I need to pay you money. Are you on Venmo? Are you on PayPal?' Or outside the United States, maybe they're on Alipay or PayU. Isn't it funny when I ask somebody for a phone number, I don't say, 'Are you on AT&T? Are you on Verizon?' I just get their phone number. The idea behind PayID is to simplify the ability to send someone money and make it as easy as sending an email. I don't ask someone whether they're on Google or Yahoo. I just send an email." So PayID enables, whether you're a large bank, or I'll use a very successful regional bank in Chicago called Byline Bank as an example. If you're an account holder there and I want to send you money, it should be as easy as typing Brad $Garlinghouse. And whether it's resolving to a Byline Bank or to Bitcoin, all this naming infrastructure can be much more simplified and interoperable. And what we're talking about, here's where people are getting hung up a bit, I think. When we're talking about being interoperable here, we're talking about being able to move funds from one platform to another. When we're talking about XRP helping to be a bridge currency, we're talking about interoperability and converting from one currency to another. And so it seems pretty clear to me that when people are looking at this, that's kind of at the core of where this misunderstanding is of, as far as PayID replacing what it is that XRP is doing. Because think about this. So where PayID is functionally going to be useful, it's when you're on whatever platform you're on, and you're sending money to a person. Say it's United States dollars, you're going to send your United States dollars to somebody else that is on a platform that you're not using, and it can interoperate in that fashion, but you are sending one currency. You're not converting the currency. If you were in a situation where you needed to convert the currency, there's not now some magic that we are yet unaware of, thanks to PayID, that makes a Nostro Vostro accounts irrelevant or makes the necessity of bridging via cryptocurrency doesn't make that irrelevant either. You still need to have something in the middle to piece this together. You still need pools of liquidity that are existing on cryptocurrency exchanges thanks to the existing liquidity of XRP. So that does not go away. So again, if you're talking about moving, and maybe this will help you understand it further if you're still wondering. Think about this. If you're sending, even before PayID, if you were going to transfer in the United States dollars from one bank to a different bank, what would XRP in the middle of that transaction do? It would add friction. You're already in United States dollars. Functionally, what would that do? The answer is nothing. That's not the use case for XRP as Ripple is positioning it. XRP is being positioned by Ripple as a bridge currency. So when you need to convert from one currency to another, then, okay, voila. Very, very useful at that point. And so PayID has nothing to do with converting from one currency to another, yet certainly very useful. And actually, by the way, I also mentioned this too, even before I saw this interview. I brought up the examples of Venmo and PayPal because they were like a couple of the most obvious ones in terms of platform, certainly in the United States anyway. And then I was reading my comments after I posted that video, excuse me, and somebody pointed out something that I had forgotten, which is that PayPal actually owns Venmo. Yes, PayPal owns Venmo, but still, the platforms with the same ownership are not interoperable. That is insane. You cannot send money from PayPal to Venmo and vice versa. If you want that to happen, you're better to take your money that's on one of those platforms, take it off the platform, and then send it there via your bank account. That's the only way you can really do it, right? That's pretty much it. Which is kind of funny to think about. So that's the type of interoperability that we're talking about, not interoperability in terms of converting one fiat currency to another. That is not what PayID is for. But again, this is a part of the vision for Ripple's Internet of Value. It's making this just a piece of it. It's making moving money around the planet as easy as it is to just send an email today. Part of that requires converting from one fiat currency to another, and that's where XRP help. Part of it is something as simple as this. It's just interoperability among platforms, which doesn't need XRP. It's unrelated. It has nothing to do with it, and that's perfectly fine. But Ripple's tackling everything, because a world where money can flow more freely, people will move money more frequently. It's that whole concept of Javon's paradox. And as that happens, if more people need to because there's more transactions taking place, that means there would be all sorts of different types of additional transactions taking place. Some of them would be cross-border payments, meaning that XRP would be needed as a bridge currency. That's just a piece of it. So it's about expanding the pie just on the whole, which will make the world better for everybody. It's going to change the way people treat money in a very meaningful way. And here's a picture. I can't remember if I pulled this up yesterday. I remember a couple days ago when I was first talking about this, I was looking for this exact page, and I couldn't initially find it. But this is the example of what it would look like when you're actually sending money utilizing PayID. So this example is alice$example.com, and then bam, you can send it. It's basically the same as Brad Garlinghouse's example of $Garlinghouse. And so you can think about it in terms of mail. They use the @ sign and email address because it's it makes sense, sending. And then for the $, we're talking about sending value, and so $sign makes perfect sense here, and so that'll just become part of the code. So hopefully this becomes something that takes off, because I'm unaware of any other platform that's doing what PayID is doing. It's not an app. It's a protocol, basically. I don't know if that's the right word for it from a technical perspective, but essentially, conceptually, it's the same thing as what TCP/IP did in terms of creating interoperability for the internet, because the internet is a network of networks here. David Schwartz wrote the following: the future of payments has never been walled gardens. PayID is breaking down walls bit by bit, starting with these 40 players onward. And then he linked to Ripple's tweet, which linked to the announcement of PayID, showing the 40, the initial 40 that are on the team moving this forward here. But yeah, walled gardens aren't going to work. And I remember a couple days ago when I initially covered this, there was that article from Fortune talking about how there's this big question: are these platforms, whether it's Venmo or PayPal or PayPal, are they really going to have this interoperability when right now they can control their own user base? And I made the point that that's not how this is going to work. Because all it takes is one company allowing interoperability with others, and it'll just start to snowball. And then if you're the one platform that can no longer interoperate, you are now going the way of the dodo. You're going extinct. You are no longer relevant. Technologically, you need to stay interoperable if all of the other platforms out there that are being used are. Otherwise, you're just going to lose your entire user base eventually. So, no, that's the reason one reason that walled gardens they don't work. They were never the big solution. Now, here's a few things David Schwartz had to say about PayID in addition to that. PayID provides human-readable payment addresses for cryptocurrency payment systems. And this is basically just a list of what PayID can do. Next, PayID provides a single destination address for multiple cryptocurrency and fiat payment systems. Next, PayID gives cryptocurrency companies a way to meet regulatory requirements such as the travel rule. And finally, PayID can provide cryptographic proof that payment was delivered to the correct destination. So I hope that this thing ultimately gets traction as long as it works as promised, and there's every indication that it indeed does perform as promised here. So at this point, it just might in part be at a point where you need implementation of it. But that'll come. That'll all come. We saw it with the internet. We saw it with email. We saw it with phone carriers. It's just walled gardens are not going to last. If there's an actual alternative or a real solution, and prior to recent times there wasn't, but if there is, then yeah, it's going to take hold ultimately. But again, so XRP is just fine. It's still doing what it does. I think people, when they were posing this question, it's a perfectly fine question to ask if you're just seeking a true answer. It's perfectly reasonable. But I think the question results from not really thinking through it to its final logical conclusion, which is, what is it that PayID is doing? What is it that XRP is being positioned to use? And if you just ask those questions and seek those answers, you'll see that they're unrelated. But that's it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say. All right, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.